Imagine you are flying at night. It is just pitch black outside the cockpit window.
Oh, yeah. The kind of dark where you can't even tell where the sky meets the ground.
Exactly. Your eyes are straining against the darkness, and you are bouncing through some light turbulence, relying entirely on a voice crackling over the radio to tell you if there is another aircraft, miles ahead of you.
Which is pretty unnerving when you actually think about it.
It really is. For decades, that was the reality of aviation. You trusted the air traffic controller, and they trusted a sweeping radar dish that was essentially guessing your exact location based on a blip that was already several seconds old by the time they even saw it on their screen.
Right. It was a system built entirely on echoes. I mean, we were bouncing radio waves off a metal tube in the sky and just, waiting to see what came back.
Right.
Highly effective for the mid-20th century, but fundamentally limited by the basic laws of physics and geometry.
But then, aviation completely rewrote the rules of how aircraft see and are seen. Suddenly, that dark sky is illuminated with precise digital tracking.
It's a total game changer.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are talking directly to you, the ambitious student pilot who is ready to take their training to the next level. We are stepping out of the basic aerodynamics of lift and drag and stepping into the digital nervous system of modern airspace. We are talking about ADS-B.
And to do this properly and, safely, we are pulling from a massive stack of essential FAA source documents.
Oh, yeah, the heavy reading.
Lots of it. We are integrating the Aeronautical Information Manual, Advisory Circulars 9114B and 0063B, the Advanced Avionics Handbook, a recent safety alert for operators, or SAIB, and of course the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge.
My goal today is to navigate through all this dense technical jargon because, let's be honest, aviation absolutely loves its acronyms.
But it really does.
I want to figure out how this actually affects you in the left seat. And joining me to make sense of the regulatory and technical heavy lifting is our senior flight instructor and avionics subject matter expert.
Happy to be here. Because we are not just talking about a new radio box in your instrument panel. We are talking about a fundamental shift in how you maintain situational awareness and, how air traffic control physically manages the sky.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we even look at the glowing screens in the cockpit, we need to understand how this technology changes the very physics of air traffic control.
Right.
The literature keeps hammering on this transition, moving from a system of interrogation to a system of broadcast.
Yeah. So to appreciate Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast, or ADS-B, you really have to understand the legacy system it's replacing.
The spinning dishes.
Exactly. The Air Traffic Control Radar Beacon System, or ATCRBS, that old system is an interrogation system based entirely on line of sight. A massive radar dish on the ground rotates, shoots out a powerful radio wave, it hits your aircraft's transponder, and the transponder fires a reply back.
And that takes time, right?
It does. It physically takes time for that mechanical radar sweep to complete a 360-degree turn. Depending on the specific radar installation, the controller's screen might only update your position every 4.7 seconds.
Wow. And I mean, a lot can happen in a fast-moving airplane in 4.7 seconds.
Absolutely.
Plus, if I am flying low in a valley or there is a granite mountain between me and that spinning radar dish, I am effectively invisible.
Right. The radio wave just hits the rock and stops.
The controller is completely blind to my existence.
Because the radar signal degrades over distance and is blocked by terrain.
Yeah.
ADS-B completely flips this paradigm because it is broadcast-based.
Broadcast-based, okay.
Yeah. The dependent part in ADS-B means the system depends on the aircraft's own internal GPS, the Global Navigation Satellite System. It uses that to figure out exactly where it is.
Oh, so the plane knows where it is first.
Exactly. Then, the avionics package broadcasts its own state vector, which is your highly accurate position, altitude, and velocity, out to the world unprompted once every single second.
Once a second? I love visualizing it like this. The old radar system is like a guy standing in a pitch-black field with a spinning flashlight trying to spot you.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. He only sees you for a fraction of a second when the beam hits you, and if you hide behind a tree, you're gone. ADS-B is like you standing in that same dark field. But now you are holding a brightly lit GPS beacon that is constantly shouting, "I am exactly right here, moving at exactly this speed."
And take that beacon analogy a step further. If you were holding that GPS beacon, search and rescue doesn't have to guess which tree you are hiding behind.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This shift from spinning flashlights to glowing beacons literally saves lives. because ADS-B is broadcasting your GPS position. And we now have dense networks of ground stations and even space-based satellite receivers listening for those beacons.
So they can hear you anywhere.
Pretty much. You can be tracked accurately in non-radar environments. The sources highlight the ESRS system in Alaska as a prime example of this.
Right, because of all the mountains.
Exactly. In vast mountainous terrains where traditional radar is completely useless, SAR teams now have exact, real-time coordinates of where an aircraft was last broadcasting before it went down.
That is incredible peace of mind for a pilot. So
Oh,
we
yeah.
understand the signal itself, but now we need to look at the actual boxes in the instrument panel.
Fun parts.
Yeah, because when you are a student bouncing around in a Cessna 172 on a hot, turbulent summer day, trying to talk to ATC and, actually fly the plane,
It's a heavy workload.
it really is. The last thing you want to do is try to remember what acronym gives you weather and what acronym gives you traffic. Let's decode the alphabet soup, starting with the two main categories, ADS-B out and ADS-B in.
Sure. So ADS-B out is the transmission of your aircraft's data to the ground stations and to other aircraft.
Yeah.
It is what makes you visible to the digital network.
Okay, that's out.
Right. And ADS-B in is the receipt of data from those ground stations and other aircraft, translating those digital packets into the visual displays on your cockpit screens.
And out is the part the FAA actually mandates. But in is the stuff pilots actually care about because of the tactical advantages it gives you.
Oh, totally. The situational awareness is unmatched.
Right, the TISB and FISB. Let's start with traffic. TSSB stands for Traffic Information Service Broadcast. From what I understand, ground stations are taking radar data and beaming it up to my cockpit.
That's right. When you have ADS-B in, the system provides estimated position, altitude trend, and ground track for up to 8 intruder aircraft within a 7 nautical mile radius of your plane.
8 planes within 7 miles.
Yeah. It gives you a much more complete picture of the surrounding traffic, especially aircraft that might only have an older transponder and aren't broadcasting their own ADS-B signal yet.
Wait, how does it see them then?
The ground station sees them on old-school radar and relays that picture to your screen.
Hold on, let me push back on this.
Sure.
If I have this amazing multifunction display in my Cessna, and it is showing me exactly where every single plane is within 7 miles, human nature says I'm going to stare at that screen.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Why shouldn't I? It clearly has better eyes than I do looking through a scratched plexiglass windshield.
This raises an important question, and it is a trap almost every pilot falls into during transition training.
Really?
Yeah. The Aeronautical Information Manual is incredibly strict about this. TISB is strictly for visual acquisition. It is an aid to help you see and avoid, not a replacement for looking outside.
Not a replacement.
No. I learned this the hard way early in my career. I was relying heavily on my traffic screen in a busy practice area. My screen showed an intruder 3 miles off my left wing. I kept staring at the display, waiting for it to move.
Right, watching the little blip.
Exactly. When I finally looked up, there was a vintage Piper Cub, which had no electrical system and therefore no transponder, passing about 500 feet directly above me.
Oh my God.
My screen showed empty skies right where that Cub was.
So aircraft without transponders are completely invisible to the digital system. That alone is terrifying.
It is. But there are technical limitations, too. TSB has what we call shadows.
Shadows.
Yeah, sometimes the ground system has a hard time perfectly correlating the old radar return with the new ADS-B report from the exact same aircraft.
So what happens?
When that happens, you might see duplicate traffic symbols on your screen for a single airplane, making it look like a mid-air collision is imminent when it's just a computer glitch.
That would definitely spike your heart rate.
Definitely. Furthermore, TASB position updates only happen every 3 to 13 seconds, depending on the radar site processing the data. A target on your screen might be a quarter mile ahead of where the pixel actually is.
Okay, so eyes outside the cockpit. Always. We've solved the problem of hitting other metal tubes in the sky. But the other massive invisible threat isn't a plane. It's a pop-up thunderstorm.
Oh, yes.
And this is where FISB, or Flight Information Service Broadcast, really earns its keep.
FISB is phenomenal. It continuously uplinks textual and graphical weather directly to your multifunction display or your iPad.
The graphical weather is the big one.
Huge. When we say graphical weather, we are talking about full-color NEXRAD radar imagery overlaid on your moving map, showing precipitation intensity.
And the text weather, too, right?
Yeah. It also transmits METARs, which are your routine aviation weather reports, terminal aerodrome forecasts, and critical aeronautical info like NOTAMs and temporary flight restrictions.
Having free visual weather in the cockpit is a massive upgrade from the old days of calling Flight Watch over a static-filled radio and trying to sketch a thunderstorm on a kneeboard.
It's like night and day.
But to get that weather, you have to be on a specific frequency. Let's talk about the 2020 mandate and the regulatory compliance side, because the FAA drew a very hard line here.
They did. Under 14 CFR 91.225, the FAA established specific airspace where ADS-B out is strictly required.
The Class A stuff.
Generally speaking, yes. If you fly in Class A airspace, which is 18,000 feet and above, you must use equipment operating on the 1090 MHz extended Squitter or 1090 ES. This is the global standard for commercial aviation.
Okay, 1090 for the high altitudes.
Right. However, if you fly below 18,000 feet, you have the option to use the 978 MHz Universal Access Transceiver, or UAT.
And the 978 UAT is the only frequency that brings in that FISB weather, correct? The big airliners on 1090 aren't getting free weather from ADS-B.
That's right. The bandwidth on 1090 is completely reserved for the high-density traffic data of commercial airliners. The FAA created the 978 UAT link specifically for general aviation to receive that rich weather and flight data without clogging up the commercial frequencies.
But implementing all this across the entire general aviation fleet hasn't been without its hiccups.
That's an understatement.
The sources, specifically AC90-114B and a recent 2025 safety alert for operators, they highlight some serious maintenance and equipment traps.
What's fascinating here is that the problems aren't usually the physical hardware failing. It's how the software is configured during installation.
Oh, like user error.
Basically, every ADS-B-equipped aircraft is assigned a unique 24-bit ICAO address. It is a specific hexadecimal code that acts like your aircraft's permanent digital fingerprint.
I'm imagining an air traffic controller staring at a screen where two planes suddenly share the same digital ID because a mechanic accidentally entered a B instead of an 8 during programming.
Exactly.
The computer system must just panic and merge them into one giant blip, right?
That is exactly the kind of chaos it creates. The ADS-B network relies on discrete digital packets to separate targets. If multiple aircraft end up broadcasting the exact same ICAO address, the ground network cannot distinguish between them.
Oh, man.
The algorithms get incredibly confused. The controllers might see targets merging, jumping hundreds of miles in a single second, or just vanishing entirely. It fundamentally breaks the safety net the system was designed to create.
This is where I want to point out something crucial for you, the student pilot listening.
Yeah.
It is really easy to say, oh, programming the transponder's hex code, that is a mechanic's problem. I just fly the plane.
Right, but you can't do that.
Exactly. Because as the pilot in command, the PIC, it is your legal responsibility to ensure the aircraft is airworthy. You need to know how to check the equipment status before flight. You need to know how to handle a minimum equipment list deferral if the ADS-B in goes down. You have to know how to report discrepancies to maintenance. You can't just shrug off a red X over your avionics display and take off anyway.
The PIC is the final authority on the airworthiness of the aircraft. Full stop.
So we have this amazing technology, we understand the rules, but the biggest hazard isn't a mechanical failure or a misprogrammed code. It is human psychology.
This is my favorite part to talk about with students.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We need to talk about information latency. We touched on it with the 3 to 13 second delay for TSB traffic, but the latency with FISB weather is a whole different beast.
Oh, absolutely. The Advanced Avionics Handbook issues a critical flashing red light warning about FISB next-red weather. It states unequivocally that data link weather is for strategic avoidance, not tactical maneuvering.
Strategic versus tactical. I'm thinking of strategic as looking at a massive line of storms 100 miles away and deciding to deviate your entire route 50 miles to the north to bypass the whole system.
That is exactly right.
And tactical would be trying to weave your way through a 2-mile visual gap between two active thunderstorm cells right in front of your nose.
Which you should never do with data link weather.
But why is it so dangerous to use the iPad screen to weave between those cells? I mean, the storm looks so crisp and clear on the display.
It looks clear, but you are looking at history, not reality.
Yeah.
The process of generating that next-red image takes an astonishing amount of time.
How long does it actually take?
Well, first, the physical radar dish on the ground has to tilt up and down, completing multiple 360-degree sweeps to slice through different altitudes of a storm cell. That mechanical process alone takes several minutes.
Okay.
Then, that massive packet of raw data is sent over terrestrial landlines to a central server facility. The server will stitch that data together with 100 other radar sites to create a national mosaic.
So they have to combine it all.
Exactly. Then it is beamed up to the ADS-B ground stations and finally broadcast to your aircraft's receiver, which has to process and render it on your screen.
So by the time I actually see the red and magenta blobs on my screen,
The advisory circular notes that you must assume data link weather is always a minimum of 7 to 8 minutes older than the timestamp displayed on the screen.
wow,
And in some processing cycles, the actual position of the storm can be 15 to 20 minutes older than what you are seeing.
that is terrifying. Using FISB to thread the needle of a thunderstorm is essentially like trying to cross a busy, high-speed highway while blindfolded, relying entirely on a photograph that someone took 20 minutes ago.
That is a brilliant way to put it.
The cars, or in this case, the severe updrafts, the hail, and the extreme turbulence, they're simply not where the picture says they are anymore.
I actually know a pilot who nearly tore the wings off a high-performance single-engine plane doing exactly this.
Wait, really?
Yeah? He saw a gap between two heavy precipitation cells on his screen.
Yeah.
He flew right for the gap, but in the 15 minutes since that data was captured, the cells had merged.
Oh.
He flew directly into the core of a level 5 thunderstorm because he trusted the glowing box more than his own understanding of weather dynamics.
That's horrifying.
It is. This latency directly feeds into what the pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge identifies as hazardous attitudes, specifically macho and invulnerability.
Right, because they feel invulnerable because the data looks so authoritative.
Exactly. And the Avionics Handbook introduces a fascinating psychological concept here called risk homeostasis.
Risk homeostasis.
Yes, it suggests that humans have a target level of risk they are inherently comfortable with. When you give a pilot a powerful new safety tool, like a terrain display or data link weather, the objective risk of the flight goes down.
Because they have better tools.
Right. But instead of keeping that new, larger safety margin, the pilot subconsciously alters their behavior to return to their original accepted level of risk.
Let me see if I have this right. If I am a VFR-only pilot, and I used to cancel my flights when the cloud ceilings dropped to 2,000 feet because I was terrified of hitting a radio tower I couldn't see.
Okay, yes.
But now that I have a synthetic vision display showing every tower on my screen, I might decide to fly in 1,000-foot ceilings.
Exactly.
I just ate up the entire safety buffer the technology was designed to provide.
You're using safety technology to enable riskier behavior,
Yeah.
completely negating the benefit of the tool. And when pilots do this, they often fall victim to another psychological trap, which is primary-secondary task inversion.
So the backup tool becomes the primary tool. How does a student pilot actually experience that in the cockpit?
It happens slowly. Instead of actively scanning your altimeter and managing your pitch, you just relax your grip and wait to hear the automated altitude chime.
The computer tells me I'm low.
Right. Or instead of actually flying the airplane, scanning for traffic and looking at the horizon, your head is down. You are staring at an iPad, endlessly scrolling through menus, trying to find a specific weather product while your airspeed slowly bleeds off and you drift off altitude.
Wow.
You stop being a pilot and start being a computer operator. You end up chasing the screen right into the side of a mountain.
So what does this all mean? Let's zoom out and recap this journey for our student pilot. We started with the fundamental physics, moving from the old line-of-sight radar interrogations with their spinning dishes and lag times, to the modern GPS-based continuous broadcast of ADS-B.
The glowing beacon.
Right, the beacon. We explored how this broadcast beacon enables search and rescue to find you anywhere, and how it delivers incredible tactical benefits to the cockpit through TSB traffic and FISB graphical weather on the 978 UAT frequency.
Huge benefits if used correctly.
Right. We covered the strict realities of the 2020 FAA mandate and the critical importance of ensuring your ICAO code is programmed correctly so that digital packets don't create ghost planes for ATC.
And cause a massive headache for the controllers.
Exactly. But most importantly, we explored the deadly mental traps. The vital understanding that the traffic and weather on your screens are delayed by processing times and system shadows.
That data link weather is for broad strategic avoidance, not tactical weaving.
Right. Advanced avionics are incredible tools to enhance your situational awareness, but they are not, and will never be, a substitute for fundamental stick and rudder skills, or the basic, non-negotiable responsibility to look out the window and fly the airplane.
Exactly. It all comes down to maintaining your role as the pilot in command, not just an IT manager managing a highly capable computer while the plane happens to fly itself.
Which brings us to a final, provocative scenario for you to ponder, drawn directly from warnings published in the Aeronautical Information Manual.
This is a scenario I make all my advanced students think through.
Because this entire ADS-B infrastructure, as magnificent and life-saving as it is, relies entirely on the GPS satellite constellation.
Right, and the U.S. government and military regularly conduct scheduled GPS testing and jamming exercises.
They just turn it off.
They do. They issue NOTAMs for these, but they happen constantly, especially near military bases. Furthermore, solar flares or systemic satellite anomalies can occur without warning.
So the fundamental foundation of ADS-B, the GPS signal, can just vanish.
It can, and it does. Imagine you are flying along at night, relying heavily on your glass panel and your iPad, and suddenly the GPS signal drops.
Oh.
Your ADS-B out fails, and ATC loses your precise tag. Your TASB traffic completely disappears. Your moving map freezes, or worse, it shows you in the wrong state.
Everything goes offline.
The magic screens go dark, or they actively feed you lies. When that happens, do you still have the fundamental pilotage and dead reckoning skills to find your way home?
It brings us right back to that pitch black night we talked about at the very beginning. When the digital glow fades and the screens fail you, are you still the master of your aircraft, relying on your foundational training, your compass, and your own eyes?
It's the ultimate test of a pilot.
Or have you simply become a passenger in command, something to think about before your next flight? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Keep your eyes outside and fly safe.